All four of my grandparents came from Crete to the United States in 1910. They, like pretty much every Greek who came to the United States, struggled, had very, very difficult times. They were just still so thrilled to be here because in Crete at that time, in the village, the women didn't even go to school. The idea that even though life was such hell for them, the fact that their kids could all go to school and possibly even go to college, which is just unimaginable, because when somebody sacrifices personally like that, really more for you than for them, it's a great background. When I was young, until I was 10 years old, we lived in what had become a bad part of Washington. But that too was a blessing, because if you grow up in circumstances like that, when you finally are able to live in a safer area and a more beautiful area, you just appreciate it 10 times more. Dad worked in the Senate, and so growing up, I was aware of that. And while I was still in graduate school, I went to work in the Senate, started out with a very low position in the basement, typing. I went from those low-level positions to the associate staff director of the committee. We were able to accomplish some major legislative breakthroughs. And then after that, President Carter became elected president, and they then offered me the position of Assistant Secretary of Commerce. I think I was 32. I was the youngest Assistant Secretary, and during those 4 years, Carter did a lot of good things. A lot of it is forgotten, but he was really quite a good president. After that, when President Reagan came in, my father, who had retired, came out of retirement, and we put together Manatos and Manatos. What we did when I was working in the Senate, it's the only time in modern history that the Congress overruled the White House and the State Department on a major foreign policy issue, and that was the invasion of Cyprus by Turkey. And we imposed the embargo on Turkey, although the White House and the State Department were totally against that. It's a good example of how lobbying can work. The lobbying, it's a complicated system, and it's huge. You know, the country of 350 million now. They help people who are interested in government find the way to fix the problem. Anybody could say, I'm a lobbyist, because there are so many different pieces of it. If in fact, you talk to your member of Congress, there's 435 of them, and you convinced him that the ecumenical patriarch should be treated as a world leader, or that Cyprus should not have been invaded, should not be occupied, you're one spoke in the wheel. It's a big country, and you need a lot of spokes. But the number of people who actually sort of coordinate all of that to make it happen is a fairly small number. Some of the important parts are you do need to be able to raise some funds for the campaigns. You've got to be able to make friends with these people. There are some senators who are good friends, and they support policies I would never support, but they also support some policies I would support. And if I can get this person to help me on that policy, I'm happy to help him. The rest of that is another subject. We just don't even discuss it. Now, one of the other things that you've got to be able to do if you are hoping to have impact on some policy issue, you've got to be able to take a complex issue and explain it in 4 minutes, literally, for 5 minutes maybe, because these guys are juggling so many balls, they don't have time. So you've really got to hit all the points. You can't exaggerate even in the least. You can't give them bad data or they'll never talk to you again. So you've got to have hard, accurate information you're giving them. You've got to be able to make the case that it's in your interest as a senator, as a member. You personally will be better off by doing this. Every president, every prime minister's job is to do the best for their country. And so as a lobbyist, that's why anything you want to accomplish, you've got to make the case. As a matter of fact, we make it very clear to every senator and member of Congress, we are here pushing this policy to help America. And there's no policy, if it's not helping America, there's no chance. I don't care what kind of lobbyist you are, what you do, you're dead in the water. So you've got to take whatever the issue is and show it in its best light for America. You've got to understand who you're talking to and what's motivating them and what they would respond positively to. Those people skills are important in this field. One subject very few people understand is fundraising for senators and members, because it looks like you're buying policy. And in fact, there are some ways in the system now where it can be purchased, unfortunately. But here's where fundraising makes a huge difference. Every senator member, the worst job that they hate more than any other is calling up people to raise money. So if I go up to a senator and I say, you know, we like the way you've been voting, we think you're our friend, and we'd like to put together a little fundraiser for you. Let's say we raise $30,000. $30,000 is nothing. But it does make that senator say, you know, I think this fellow is a friend. He's trying to help me. So now if you come to him later with a policy, he'll say to his staff, it's very cold, hard-hearted maybe. He'll say, look, take a look at what they want. If it makes sense, see what we might be able to do to help them. But if it doesn't make any sense, you're dead. I don't care how much money you raise for them. It's not going to work. But that is a very, very valuable tool, and as a consequence, we have a number of fundraisers for the right key senators and members of Congress. It's very interesting in that on the one hand, you got to have a lot of money. On the other hand, the last presidential election, Democrats raised significantly more than Republicans. In Senate races, you'll find that. House races, you'll find that. The person with the most money doesn't always win, but you've got to have the money to get your word out. It's the way the system works. It's an unusual system, but it's just so multifaceted, so many different aspects of it, that there are ways of approaching it, and sometimes they are really going around and coming in a very indirect way to change American public policy. And one good example of that, coming in a very unusual way, is, as you may know, the Greek American community meets with every president at the White House every year for over 30 years, about 35 years now. And there's only one other ethnic group able to do that, that's the Irish. The Irish are 1 out of every 9 Americans. Greek Americans are 1 out of every 250. But I realized that if we could do that, if we could get in there with every president every year, it could make a huge difference. So I introduced some legislation in the Congress to recognize Greek Independence Day, passed it through the House and Senate, and then we got the president to sign a document. And so every year that president was there, he signed it, and we had a little event in the Oval Office. And then, now when the next president comes in, again, you've got to figure, okay, how are we going to get to this person? You try to find a Greek that he may know somehow. And then you have that person, if they have any relationship, go to him and say, look, you don't want to be the first president not to recognize Greek Independence Day. You don't want that reputation. And literally, you've got to play that game every time a new president comes in. It's so extreme. Once the precedent is gone, it's over. And one example, America was literally in a war. And my White House friends were saying, Andy, we can't have celebration of Greek independence Day. We're at a war. And I said, look, you just tell me where the president will be for 10 minutes. I don't care where it is in this country. and I will have the Archbishop there to celebrate Greek Independence Day. And so we literally did it at a hotel because you have to maintain the precedent so that you can say to the next United States president that you don't want to break this precedent of all these years. It's done every year, but it's very difficult. Biden was an easy one, yes. Actually, he was one of them who co-sponsored my bill to begin it. As a matter of fact, we've run into sometimes some people in the community. They would come to the White House. We'd invite them to come to the White House. And I won't identify the people, but they said, oh my golly, why are these guys doing it? I should be the one who's leading the group to the White House. They went and hired a consulting firm to get a piece in the Washington Post saying, we're not going to support these people because they don't know who the people in the Greek community are. It should be me and not that. And the people in the White House said, what are you doing? We're trying to help you. We did this for, and now we're getting blasted by the public. And so we literally nearly lost it. We nearly blew the opportunity to be there every year because it was so poorly understood. People appoint themselves to do these things, and it's a delicate process. And a lot of people don't know it. Prior to that, although some Greeks would say, oh yes, I was close to this president. In fact, it was a very hard thing for the Greek community to meet with anybody above even an assistant secretary level. We're not a political force at that time, but here's what happens. Every time a new administration comes in, everybody's new in their job. They don't know what the president wants. They think they do, but they're not sure. And suddenly the president of the United States, they see, my God, he's meeting with these Greek Americans. Oh my God, they must be a very important group. So suddenly cabinet members were willing to meet with us, very senior officials were willing to meet with us. So something as seemingly insignificant as just going in and having a meeting with the president had huge ramifications in it. And that's been a great asset. And none of that would have happened were it not for the fact that the Greek community is very highly regarded. I did a study when I was working in the Senate. The Greeks who came here, census data, found that Greeks ranked among the bottom in education and income. But in one generation, Greeks ranked among the top in education and income. And bear in mind, the Greeks did that in what was at the time the wealthiest, most well-educated country in the world, that the Greeks were able to surpass the other ethnicities phenomenally. I guess you could say it this way, there is a Greek lobby. If you took, let's say, 100 people, or maybe even 50, and just removed them from that issue, would policy toward Greece and Cyprus and the Patriarchate be different? And the answer is yes. Greece, Cyprus, and the Patriarchate would be worse off if the so-called Greek lobby was not there. Most Greek Americans will respond to the call. Without that happening, particularly with the other side doing it, yeah, we'd be in trouble. American policy toward Greece and Cyprus, you would think, would be automatic because Greece has been such a great ally. Cyprus has been a great ally. But there are other elements out there, and there are some American officials who have a very simple attitude, is look, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to get the most powerful country in that region do what they want so that they'll do what we want. The people causing problems for Greece have huge power and huge resources that they spend frequently in misleading ways. Money does talk, and Turkey is a powerful country, and there are things that it does for the United States that cause people to do things they otherwise wouldn't do. And it's a moving target, though, because with every administration, it's a different set of characters. Some are already sympathetic, some people have to be educated about it. Some people we're already tight with, we're good friends with. Some people we're not. It's an actual problem. I mean, Cyprus is not a huge country. Greece, compared to some other countries, does not have as much power. Erdogan is really, a study should be done of this guy. Without revealing the names, there are people who, I mean, a range of people who have seen him lie to people, promise things that were certainly going to happen, and they know that this is what he does. And then they get in there, and they're going to get him to do the right thing, and they say, yep, he's going to do it. And sure as hell, he then screws them as well. The guy is a master. I mean, I don't know how he does it. How he can repeatedly lie like that and have these people believe him. I mean, he's on the wrong side, but he is good. Now, in America, as you know, our country is getting seriously injured by this intolerance of the other side. And just, there's a tremendous amount of misinformation going on. So this group over here believes that information, and they're throwing rocks at this group, and the same thing on this side, they're believe that information, because the United States educational system killed civics and government about 40 years ago. So most Americans don't even understand how the system works. And you got to ask another question. With AI coming up, quantum physics coming up, the system that I grew up in, that I love, took 2 years for the House and Senate to pass a serious bill. 2 years. Well, with quantum physics and AI in this modern world, can we stand to make decisions that take 2 years to do? But that was the checks and balances so that nobody could get carried away. And we're at a very strange position in this world with all this technological developments. And I pray democracy works. It's worked pretty well for a long, long time. We hope it stays.